Many of my viewers have noticed that I have not put up videos in the last couple months, little over that actually. For that, I deeply apologize. It has been my goal since I created the channel to regularly provide beautifully produced and scientifically accurate videos on the science of the natural world. But this is what brought a temporary end to the videos. Hurricane Fiona, the biggest storm ever recorded in Canadian history. And our homestead was square in the middle of the region of Canada where it impacted the hardest. This area, it looked like a war zone after Hurricane Fiona hit. You'll see in a moment. Major roads, side roads, back roads, they were blocked, there was flooding. The power was out for weeks. This here is an old side road about 10 miles from our homestead. It's just a small rural area dotted with the odd farm and camp. But trees had been blown over and knocked down the power lines every 20, 30 meters or so. Driving, even to the little village about an hour away, took hours. And for the first 10 days after the hurricane, there was no getting even to the villages. These little country byways and the dirt road that goes miles through the woods were entirely blocked by fallen trees. At this little farmstead, this man's barn has been entirely blown down. And that right there is a historic church. Its roof and even much of its paint ripped away. And for all of that, those few of us who live in the highlands came out better than most, as the high ridges protected us from the worst of the devastating winds of the hurricane. This was a grocery in one of the villages, about a week and a half after the hurricane. Supply lines were destroyed, and the town lost power for a week, so anything in the fridges was lost. The building itself seems to have ridden out the storm well enough, though. And I guess, in light of these things, my wife Daphne and I rode it out better than many, living back on our self-sufficient homestead way back in the woods. We at least had backup power, a wood stove for heat and cooking, and a spring-fed stream running right beside our cottage for water. But our roof did not fare so well, at least not on the south side, the side facing the brunt of the storm. The storm had started off seeming like just a gentle wind, and it began early in the afternoon for us. But right about sundown, the winds hit like a wall, just all at once, full force, and they ripped off an enormous amount of the roofing. It might not look like the damage is all that much from the outside, but from the inside, it shattered many of the planks and created these openings that effectively made it was like it was raining inside the cottage. We took an immense amount of damage and had to abandon, during the hurricane, every room in the house except for the kitchen and the Arctic entry. And due to the extreme winds and the extreme pitch of our roof, which is designed for shedding snow and not hurricane winds, there wasn't much that we could get up there and do in the way of patching that hole and blocking off the water. Here you can see the water dripping through the attic, through the second story of the cottage, and down into the living room. For days, it was like it was raining in the house. We did what we could to redirect the water and save what we could. And I guess in that sense we were also fortunate. We lost very little in the way of our possessions themselves, but the home itself took a lot of damage. The roof itself was pretty much totaled, and this is my poor wife making do in those days that we had to live just in the kitchen. And the Arctic entry, I have to say she held up like a champ, but it was awfully cramped. We were fortunate, though, and about a week after, we were able to find a contractor in one of the little villages about an hour away. And he came out here and immediately put up a pretty darn good patch on our roof. His people even went the extra mile and battened it down pretty good. But with so many homes damaged, and it was an immense amount, he couldn't get right to the roofing. We contracted him immediately to put up a steel roof, something much, much stronger than the old shingle roof that we had. But he just wasn't able to get to it for about 2 months, which means that we weren't able to start any of the repairs in the home. I didn't have a computer room and a lab or an editing bay to operate in. There just wasn't really much of a way I could get about to making videos. But the steel roof is up now, and there is an immense amount of work to do in the house still. I have to repair the living room, my wife's workroom, the room that was formerly my editing bay. But we have about half the rooms operational now, so there is enough room to set out the computer, the microscopy lab, and get back into the work of covering these important topics on natural history, conservation, and this beautiful, marvelous natural world around us. It's going to be tough going, but I'm going to try to make videos as frequently as I did before. Though with all the repairs, I'm not sure if I'll be able to maintain that degree of productivity for a while. And it's also going to be a struggle to pay for many of those repairs. Canada's insurance companies, well, it's like the Wild West up here in regard to insurance companies. Insurance companies are not well regulated in Canada, and the government pretty much lets them do whatever the hell they want. A couple of years ago, insurance companies just decided they aren't insuring homes over 100 years old anymore. And because my wife and I keep a little vegetable garden and raise a couple milk goats, they decided, really made the excuse that we are a commercial farm. So they dropped us, and pretty much all the insurance companies in Nova Scotia will not insure older rural homes anymore. So we have to pay for these expenses out of pocket. Damages, I estimate, will come to the tune of about $60,000 to $70,000. The province has promised disaster aid to those persons who have been affected by the nefariousness of Canadian insurers, but I'm not holding my breath. It has been about 3 months now since Fiona struck, and to my knowledge, the province has not yet come through with assisting a single person they have promised to help. Call me cynical, but the promise of that disaster assistance is looking more and more like a PR stunt. I would, though, like to thank the Red Cross, who very quickly provided disaster aid, enabling us to get that large and somewhat expensive patch on the roof until the steel roof could be put up. I also, though, I want to take a moment to thank all the people who helped us through this disaster. I learned in the course of this Hurricane Fiona disaster how many people in the Maritime, the Atlantic provinces, and beyond appreciated the work of this channel. People sent us about $5,000 in donations to help us repair, and even people volunteering to come and help. And so many people offered and sent little bits of money, and sometimes large amounts of money. In one case, $1,000. That I'm humbled and honored, and I really, really thank you for all the work that you've done to help us. And Daphne and I, we're not a rich couple. I'm not a money-focused person. All my life, I've been a clinician and an academic and a naturalist. And I'll be the first to admit, I'm not really a businessman. If it weren't for you, we would not have been able to get that roof up before winter. Thanks to all of your help, things are bit by bit coming together, and the channel is going to get back on track very soon. In fact, I plan to begin creating videos again tomorrow. So from Cliff and Daphne at the Understory channel, and to all the people that helped us through the disaster, all the students at our classes all around the Atlantic provinces, all the persons who have subscribed to and otherwise supported the channel, my heartfelt thanks. With your help, we have been able to begin restoring our home, and the educational work of the Understory channel will carry on. Thank you, a heartfelt thank you. I hope you had a great holiday season, and that you will enjoy the best of a new year in 2023.